Late Fees besties. The No More Late Fees podcast is now available on Patreon. Subscribe to receive exclusive content including Ask Me Anythings, playlists, live streams, bonus clips, and more. Check us out at patreon.com/no more late fees. Welcome to the No More Late Fees podcast. I'm Jackie.
And I'm Danielle, and we're just two best friends and ex-Blockbuster employees rewatching some of our favorite movies from the late 90s and early 2000s.
And we have a very special guest with us today. It is my sister, Heather, who has joined us. I am super excited for you to be here.
I'm super excited to be here as well. Thanks for having me, guys.
And it's September, so that means back to school.
I'm so
back
glad.
to school to prove to Dad that I'm not
a fool.
We are doing Billy Madison from 1995. That's right. This week we're doing Billy Madison from 1995. This is the story of man-child Billy Madison, who is rich and spoiled. His father owns a hotel chain and is getting ready to retire. And Billy finds out that he's not going to inherit the business, and his arch nemesis, Eric, is. So Billy makes an agreement with his father that he will spend 2 weeks in every grade and pass all of his schooling in order to inherit the family business. And this movie is starring Adam Sandler, Darren McGavin, Bradley Whitford, and Bridgette Wilson Sampras. You can find this to rent on Amazon Prime. Currently, it is $3.99. But before we get started, let's get into our ratings rewind.
So you know the drill. Before we get into any movie, we'll reveal the rating our Y2K versions of ourselves would give. Then at the end, we'll see if our current selves agree with our initial rating. Our scale consists of would buy it again,
The best, would play on repeat,
5-day rental,
would watch again,
2-day rental,
okay, but nothing to write home about,
and same-day rental.
trash, straight up trash.
All right, Heather, since you're our guest, you'll go first. Give us your Y2K rating for Billy Madison.
All right. Yeah, I would 100% hands down say it was a would buy it again. Like Jackie said, our dad got tired of us renting it for Blockbuster, so we actually did buy it and we watched it a ton.
And if you want to hear that story, make sure you listen to our trailer of today's episode so you can hear about how Jackie's dad withheld Billy Madison from these poor children. Jackie, what's your rating?
Samesies. Would buy it again.
I'm shocked.
It's probably no big secret now that most of these movies I just own on iTunes. So I pretty much bought them all. Danielle, what about you?
5-day rental for me. I loved Billy Madison when I was younger.
That's a surprising answer.
I love this movie. I think I watched this. When did this come out? We were in middle school, right?
95, but I don't think we really found it until it came to video. So we were probably just starting high school.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I know I watched it. And then obviously when I met you, it was on full rotation.
Nice. Okay, let's jump into it. Scene opens. Actually, it's still like the opening credits and the music starts playing. And I got the biggest goddamn smile on my face from just those like opening chords. It made me so happy.
Same. It's like, yep. I'm just got time warped back into my childhood.
Here we are. Let's go. So it opens on Billy sitting in, I can't figure out to this day, is that a fountain or a pool? Or is it a hybrid?
It's a fool.
I think so. I think it's somewhere I think it's just
It's rich people pool.
a deep fountain.
Yeah.
I'm so confused by it. But yes, there is it's a rich people's
Is it like one of those SAT questions? It's like all fountains can be pools, but not all pools can be fountains.
Exactly. So he's floating around. He is making sure to use sunscreen and puts a sunscreen smiley that he doesn't rub in. So he's just going to have a very white smiley with very red skin around it.
And that changes form as the scenes go on in this little segment.
His two mooch friends are on loungers. One is Norm Macdonald. He plays Frank. I, to this day, don't know what the other one's name is, if he has a name.
Oh, they say it a couple times in the movie, and I didn't commit it to memory. It's
unimportant. There's Frank and the other one. Billy says, I feel like there's something I was supposed to do today. And his friends are trying to jog his memory. And then he remembers it's Nudie
Magazine Day.
So we chant all the way to the mailbox, running over rose bushes in our little golf cart. Nudie Magazine Day.
It's Nudie Magazine Day.
The magazines he gets, the first one doesn't age well. She-Male Fiesta.
None of those magazines age well.
Can I add a little tidbit that I found out about that first magazine?
Yes.
It's Rob Schneider.
Of course it is.
I didn't go back and look. I read that after I watched the movie, but it had, of course, like Danielle said, of course it is.
So the three magazines are She-Male Fiesta, Women Over 80, and the one he's really interested in, Drunk Chicks, which features an assistant producer.
I also noticed it's Blue Balls Productions was on the back of the magazines.
At this point in the movie, I realize I'm not ready to watch this movie. And it took me 3 days to watch this movie.
And so then Billy looks up and that goddamn penguin's back again.
It's too damn hot for a penguin.
He has to take him back to the South Pole. And so he starts chasing the penguin as his dad is hosting a business dinner. And so all of his associates are pulling up in their stretch limousines, nicely dressed. Billy is hammered out of his mind, chasing an invisible penguin. He gets to the front doors and passes out.
I just don't understand why that house is huge. There's not a separate wing for him to be in for his shenanigans.
But later on, he lives in a tent out back. We'll get to the tent.
Well, he said it's jumping ahead, but he said the house gets too busy with all of the health and things. So he moved out to the tent to focus on his schooling.
They could have built him a whole separate, just like mother-in-law suite or a whole nother house on that property just so that he can get the hell out of his dad's business. I don't understand.
Just buy him his own Billy house.
Yeah. Just like when mom put Jackie and I in the room down the hallway because she didn't want our nonsense in the middle of the house.
Yeah.
What I do love is that the mansion that they film at, it's a famous mansion that they've used for multiple different movies. And personally, I'm very excited because it's also Professor X's school for the gifted. So
I knew I recognized it. I wanted to say something else.
Okay. So then our beloved Juanita shows up, picks his drunk ass up off the floor, drags him inside, and makes him go upstairs. She makes
gasped. I gasped when I saw Juanita, because in my very bad memory, I remember there being a Black woman in this movie. I just was aghast at the fact that she was wearing that outfit, and she just gave me all of the Mammy vibes.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, what the fuck? How did this get made and pushed through I put my picture of Juanita behind me because justice for Juanita. This movie and the way they treated this Black woman is awful. Awful. And I will continue to say that throughout the rest of this episode. So that's just number one. Continue.
She sends Billy upstairs to get ready for the very important business dinner that Billy is invited to for some reason. And then we are introduced to Carl and Eric. Eric is very hangry and he is very upset Carl didn't offer him some of his delicious Triscuit crackers in the limo on the ride over.
Isn't Carl Mr. Heckles from Friends?
Is it? Have I never noticed that?
Yeah, his name is Larry Hankin, and he said he's not a fan of the film. He disliked the film because he didn't like the type of humor that it used. He didn't find Adam Sandler to be very appealing as a person. He said he found him to be too crude as well as immature, and he was upset that one of his friends was fired from the movie. Sounds like Mr. Heckles in real life to me.
It is Mr. Heckles. How have I never noticed that?
Good finding.
I'm really bad at like faces.
But he's a good person in this movie. We like Carl.
Yes.
And my notes about Eric are Eric is the worst. He is just the worst.
I love him.
Danielle always loves the antagonist. Always.
Oh my God.
It's Bradley Whitford. Like, it's Bradley Whitford. I love him. He's amazing. He's an amazing actor. I don't know how he got roped into this movie, but he's an amazing actor.
So they're all sitting around the table, everyone sitting and waiting for Billy. And then we cut to Billy taking a extremely leisurely bath.
In a very extravagant bathtub.
It is.
Fancy bathtub.
It is fancy. And this is probably my favorite scene. It's up there.
It's up there. Yeah.
And he is having a conversation between his shampoo and conditioner. He's playing both parts, arguing which one is better. And then he is very offended by the faucet that looks like the swan.
Stop looking at me, swan.
It's so good.
Sorry. This really could just be a reenactment of the movie.
It really could. I'm trying really hard.
Let's not.
I'm sorry. Danielle's going to really have to cut me off.
Yeah, that's why I didn't do the whole shampoo conditioner thing. So you're fine. I'm just trying really hard not to quote like every single thing. So then he jogs into dinner, very clean, but still dressed like a hobo. Backwards baseball cap, comes in, slurping his soup like a heathen.
So I have to ask, does Billy have, his dad says it later, but does he have a mental illness? Like what's going on?
I think he just never matured past like 10.
But there's like social cues and stuff, like the way that he Tourette's like yells in this dinner scene. I was just like, what the fuck is happening right now? I don't know. I you know what? This movie made me feel old because I feel like as a young person, I just definitely thought it was silly and fun. And now as an adult, I'm just like, what is this?
And I read that Adam Sandler said that Billy Madison was the character most like him that he's ever played. And I'm like, that's the truth.
That's worrisome. That makes
Jackie
me
Titone, what are you doing?
That makes me think that he for sure is a good actor, because if he is like Billy, he's been putting in the work for the rest of the movies.
Eric has some choice words about making them wait. Billy very eloquently tells him to shut up. And then his dad makes a comment that his associates have missed their flight home. He invites one of them to stay in his bed and pretends to bite them.
I don't know if he was pretending. I think he literally put that man's hand in his mouth, and I was concerned.
It's weird. That's a very weird scene. I'm like, what is that?
He gets angry at Eric and starts speaking gibberish. And his dad yells at him to leave. So Billy exits and Carl says, "Bye, Billy. Nice seeing you." And Billy
So
responds,
nice.
"Talahoo, sabadoo." Which
I don't get it. Don't get it.
I have said before as like an exit greeting.
I'm gonna start. I don't know why I haven't.
Right?
I'm gonna add it to my repertoire.
So we see Billy is at some sort of local burger place with his friends. Apparently, customary pickle races. So they throw the pickles on the window, and whoever's slides down first wins.
This movie irked my soul because it's just absolute fucking rich privilege throughout the whole movie. Like, I just thought about the workers. I would come and cuss you out. What the hell are you doing?
So then his friends pick up that Billy's not as enthused with the pickle races today. And what's going on, Billy? And so he's upset that dad yelled at him, and his dad's retiring and is ready to give up business. But he soon gets over that because they decide to take the events to lighting bags of shit on people's doorsteps.
And for a second, I was super excited for him because at least if he was upset, that meant he actually cared, you know? And then he went to go burn up shit. So
he pushed past it.
He pushed past me having some empathy.
They put it on this poor old guy's doorstep. And his wife, it seems like this has happened before because his wife yells, "Don't put it out with your boots, Ted." And he replies, Heather,
"Don't tell me my business, devil woman."
Who talks to their wife this way? Poor lady.
In their tidy whities out on the patio, by the way, or the porch.
Yeah. The next day, Dad has a meeting with Billy. He's wearing a shirt he stole from Frank. And his dad explains that he's going to give the company to Eric. And to which Billy replies, "He's a bad, bad man."
He is. He's
I
terrible.
love that he's not even, and he doesn't try to hide it either. You know how like in some of those movies, they're like a kiss up to the boss and then an asshole, behind closed doors. Like he really does not try to hide that he is this big old jerk.
Yeah. Billy also inquired as to if the penguin told Dad to do this.
In a like serious tone.
Yes. Carl does step in and offer to help get Billy acquainted with this job. Dad then divulges that Billy only graduated because he paid the teachers to give him decent grades.
Well, yeah, Billy is like, "Oh my God, I passed, high school and stuff." And then his dad course corrects and says, "Well, actually, most of your career and schooling was, benefited from me throwing some dollars to get you through," which I think really, if he had any kind of confidence, which I think his behavior speaks to the lack thereof, even before his dad says this.
The whole movie premise is kind of silly because Billy obviously has enjoyed his time skating through life. And like, if I'm thinking about it, I don't really want to become the CEO of a 600 plus hotel chain if I don't know the business. Like that's a lot of pressure out of nowhere, So I would kind of just be like, just give me a stipend and let the businessmen do their business thing.
I kind of feel like he probably thought it was always going to be his. I think he knew that that's where it was going to go. And I think because his dad was always doing the work, he could coast. And so I think the moment he had the realization that I'm not just going to automatically get this, which is privilege, that's when it like clicked inside of him, like, holy shit, like I might have to do something about this. This isn't automatic. I don't think he thought there would be a choice that somebody like Eric would get it. I think
you're right.
That's the problem. Poor Billy. Joke's on you, buddy.
So then they come to an agreement that Billy has to repeat 1st through 12th grade all over again for 2 weeks, and he has to pass each grade. I don't know what the litmus for passing is.
I guess his teachers, I think his teachers decide, because at one point his kindergarten or first grade teacher says, and now you've passed. So like there's something she saw that made her say, okay, you can.
Maybe it's whatever the kids were doing in that 2 week span. He just had to participate in and pass or whatever.
Yeah, I think so.
So that's what they agree upon. And if Billy fails, then Eric gets the company.
His dad was impressed that he came up with that idea so quickly. And
I wrote a note about that too before he said that. I'm like, that was pretty good on your feet.
Yeah.
idea.
And then we see Billy very proudly going upstairs, and in his head,
ba, 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 da, 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 da.
I do love that. I think one of the things that makes me nostalgic about Adam Sandler movies is that he has great soundtracks. He takes 80s music and puts them in all his soundtracks, and I always love that. He even did that in 50 First Dates, where he changed it up and made 311 sing all the 80 songs, but I still loved it.
ain't mad at it.
No.
Now we are on the first day of school. Juanita is making his lunch for him. He's very upset that there is no snack pack.
Which is what Danielle and I would have said if there was no Swiss cake roll.
Yes.
And my Swiss cake roll.
Yes. I did get a lot of snack packs too. I do, but I don't like vanilla. I was all chocolate. Christine knew, don't come around this house with no vanilla snack pack.
And then we get his back to school song, which I really adore. And then the bus drives by but doesn't stop, probably because they don't see a child waiting.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I have a question for both of you guys.
All right.
The
you want
premise,
us to sing the back to school song?
I do not. But Horde pass.
We can.
But I do want to know. I know it's a movie. It's in the premise is whatever. But isn't it weird that they let this grown-ass adult come into an elementary school and school in general? And like, do you think that they told the parents? It was a pretty quick turnaround too. Like, I know his dad could throw money at a problem, but like, what the hell?
You're not wrong. Like, it is weird. Like him sitting in the middle of that little first grade. Is it first grade or kindergarten that he starts in?
It's first grade. I always thought Miss Lippy was kindergarten, but it's first grade.
Yeah.
Yeah, but him sitting in the middle of all those kids napping and laying on each other and stuff. I'm like, this is a little strange.
Yeah. This is stranger danger situation.
Yeah,
I know that, he was I said, this is something I never questioned before.
Things you don't think about when you're a child.
Mm-hmm.
And so then his dad has to drop him off, and he very sweetly says, "Thank you, Daddy."
Thank you, Daddy.
Again, why was he trying to go on a school bus? He's a grown man. Does he not have a license? He does have a car and a license.
It's immersion, Danielle. He's going to school.
My tax money's not going to this rich bitch driving the short bus with the children.
But that's a good point, because that bus probably didn't pass by his house on the daily. Like, it would have had to go out of its way to drive past him and say, "See you, sucker. Get a ride from your dad."
But then at the end of the school day, the bus driver's like, ready to get on. So now we know this grown man's on the bus.
He probably got a phone call.
The memo got to the bus driver. He was last on the list.
This is Billy's first sighting of Veronica Vaughn.
She's so pretty.
Good.
She really
for
is.
him.
And her voice sounds like a Disney princess.
Mm-hmm.
Does
her face looks like one too. She's just lovely.
I like her a lot better in this movie than as Helen in I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Not Helen, Elsa.
Elsa, yes. Oh my God. Yeah. Yes. Elsa.
There you go, Dad. Again. The names.
It's all mixed up.
He walks into first grade and he meets Scotty, who likes beans. Miss Lippy, the first grade teacher, who's very eclectic.
She's something.
She's not
She
crazy.
doesn't look like she should be around kids either.
Yeah, exactly. Ding, ding, ding.
I think they were going for like kooky kindergarten teacher.
Well, I wonder if it's based a little bit on his mom because she is a teacher, a kindergarten teacher, I think. And it is
preschool.
Preschool, yeah.
Yeah.
She's it's stated that this is her favorite role of his, which, okay.
I'm proud mom.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure she's well taken care of. So
of course.
And honestly, I feel like Miss Lippy got it on the nose or hit the nail on the head or whatever for like, eclectic first grade teacher until she did what she did in your background picture and put the paste on her face. Like that's really where she tanked and like jumped the shark. Like what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, that was super weird.
It is now story time. We listen to The Puppy Who Lost Its Way. Billy is fascinated.
Yeah, he's the only one who stays awake. He doesn't take a nap. And
he has hard opinions.
Yes, that was going to be my background picture, is him arguing with her about the end of the book. Because I agree with him. You get off your ass and you find that dog.
And so apparently the little boy in the book does not go and look for the lost dog. I think he looks for an hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then he goes home and waits for the dog to come back.
No, you make flyers. You post on the interwebs. You freak out.
I was surprised Billy was that dedicated to that much hard work.
That's true.
Miss Lippy thinks it's time to play dodgeball.
She wants them out.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Is it customary to go from zonked out on the floor nap time to dodgeball? Like, wake up kids, let's go play dodgeball?
I mean, sometimes the schedule just works out where like rest time backs up to recess and you're just like, okay,
but they barely slept.
I don't think the intent of story time was to pass out because they had a dedicated nap time later or rest time later.
I was just confused that they fell asleep that fast. That book wasn't that long.
Well, she read it pretty damn slow.
She was.
Billy walks out ready to play dodgeball. We see O'Doyle number 1.
O'Doyle rules.
Yes. He throws the ball at, proclaims O'Doyle rules. So Billy turns around, goes back inside where Miss Lippy is listening to some
that dancing. That dancing. Her foot was on its side at one point. That she was standing on it. She looked like one of the zombies. That's how zombies walk. With their foot all broken on the side.
She looked real crazy. I know she's not crazy, but she looked real crazy.
Billy's just standing there in the doorway watching Miss Lippy. And I 100% get Miss Lippy where she's like,
I need my personal time.
Dodgeball is not only a special time for the children, it's a special time for Miss Lippy because you need that fucking recess break.
Yeah.
You need to not be around the children, but at the same time, there was no one outside supervising dodgeball.
Right. And yet again, we still don't know this grown-ass man you've now left with the children.
And during the dodgeball scene, so Miss Lippy says, no, you're just out this round. You go back out and you get in the next round. Miss Lippy needs her piece. So Billy goes back outside. Someone tries to tag him out again. He one hand catches that ball.
Almost like Ben Stiller in Dodgeball. Continue.
And he says, now you're all in big trouble. And apparently Adam Sandler hit the kids with the dodgeball as hard as he possibly could. He got permission from all the parents. And the editor had to cut away quickly after each hit so he didn't show the children crying.
That's crazy.
I mean, it is dodgeball. Like you expect to get hit the ball. It's not like they were, I don't know, knitting and he was like stabbing them with the knitting needle or something.
I mean, if the parents signed off on it, then it is what it is, but that's crazy.
So now it's lunchtime. Billy's still desperate for that snack pack. There's a kid eating his, trying to trade bananas, make some deals. Kids like No Go Man. And then there is a conversation between two kids that he becomes more friendly with later in another grade, but they are arguing about Mortal Kombat being the best video game of all time. And Billy replies, well, Mortal Kombat is very good, but Donkey Kong is the best video game of all time. And they're just like, who the fuck are you?
And Mortal Kombat was a throwback to Bridgette, because she was in that. I don't remember the character, but I remember reading
she was she in
movie.
Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter?
I think it was Mortal Kombat. I think I read that it was an homage, or not an homage, but
it was like a call. That makes
Yeah.
sense. I didn't even hear that Mortal Kombat one. I was just like, Donkey Kong was great.
And a kid says, Donkey Kong sucks, and Billy replies, you suck. Which I feel like a lot of our retaliations probably come from Adam Sandler-isms.
Yeah. That seems like a perfectly fair schoolyard comeback. You suck.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
It's the end of the school day. Billy's about to get on the bus, but Scotty's mom is picking him up, and Scotty's mom is a MILF, I guess.
That scene was weird too.
And so he's trying to kind of hit on her, slide into her DMs. And Miss Lippy brings out all of his like arts and crafts that he made for the day.
She cop blocks him hardcore.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Lippy.
And then we transition to a scene where Eric tells his master plan to his pet rat.
You had pet rats.
I love rats. I just didn't really, I mean, I guess I talked to them, but not in that capacity. We then transition to another day at school. Billy's trying to use the tiny urinals. And then he comes out from the bathroom, and Veronica happens to be walking through the hallway.
Hold on. When he's in the bathroom trying to use the urinals like a fucking moron, and there's stalls for him to use, can we talk about the weird custodian guy creeping out of the stall, looking at him, and then going back into the stall?
But we find out later why.
I know, but in that moment, I was like, what the hell's happening?
Yeah, it is very weird.
So back to the milk. There is a cart of milk outside of a classroom. And so Billy's trying to get in good with Ms. Vaughn. And so he's like, oh, you want some milk? We can share milk. Mm-hmm. And she's like, that's that classroom's milk, idiot. He's like, well, it could be our milk. And she says, no milk will ever be our milk.
She wrong.
It's true. And then he turns around and is like, well, how about you, Sideburns? You want some of this milk? To the creepy janitor. And he says, I'd rather have a beer. We transition then to, this random scene, which is my background for our YouTubers. Billy clapping erasers while Miss Lippy gives herself a paste facial.
But he was like eating the paste by the spoonful too. And I was just like, this is disgusting. I was not a paste eater in kindergarten at a young age, so I couldn't relate.
I had to ask. I asked my mom, because I don't remember paste. I'm like, was paste like good? She clarified. She said, yes, it had a sweet taste of sorts.
Ew.
And so then it's nap time, but Billy's kind of grown out of naps. He'd rather get drunk and black out. And so he's sitting and coloring a duck. And he decided to color the duck blue because he's never seen a blue duck. And for some reason, that is the thing that helps him pass first grade.
Matriculation for a duck.
And then there is a huge party every time he passes a grade. And they're really just random. Maybe something happens and then that kind of propels the story forward. Most of the time it's just fluff, but this one, the only thing I need to note is that the clown on stilts falls down and hits his head.
Yeah, and everyone laughs, and I was like, I think he has a brain hemorrhage or something. The poor clown, even though I don't like clowns.
Yeah, who does? I mean, if you like clowns, I think you need to be looked at.
Yeah.
Sorry, social people, you can get mad at them for me saying that.
Nobody's admitting to liking clowns, not out loud at least.
But that him falling down and the blood kind of coming out of his mouth, that was another weird sadistic thing that in the article I read, the director said was a specific Adam Sandler idea, that he thought it would be really funny to like have a gush of blood come out of his mouth. Absolutely. Interesting.
And now Billy is in. Oh, and then we see Eric paying the janitor. The janitor is now in Eric's office, and he's paying the janitor for information, but the janitor, I don't know if he has
There's something wrong with him. He
special
comes
needs, or if he's older and just
no, he's messed up in the head. He's probably an alcoholic, because his answer to the questions of getting dirt didn't even make any sense.
Miss Lippy's car is green.
But I blame Eric. He should have gotten better like dirt to really pull up on Billy, for God's sakes.
And then we see Billy in second grade. He is competing in a spelling bee. The little girl tries to spell couch, and she spells it how it sounds in her head. She's
With
trying to figure it out.
W.
Yeah. And as soon as she says W, he goes, no.
Which is unfair, because when he goes to spell couch,
yeah, he messes up.
He puts an R in there, and he hesitates. He's like, are you going to the mall later?
Yes.
Like, that is not fair.
And this lady, okay, do you remember? Heather will remember.
I know who you're going to talk about. Exactly who you're going to ask about.
In high school, we had a teacher. I won't name the teacher, but she taught marine science.
I don't know.
She was Earth Space for me.
Yes, she was a science teacher. This second grade teacher completely reminds me of her, like,
yeah,
dead on.
Mm-hmm. We didn't talk about this ahead of time, but I'm not even, I wish I would have put it in my notes so I could say it's in my notes, but I thought about that teacher. I was like, yep, that's her.
So, Billy spells couch correct, and she says, correct. You just passed the second grade, in her like old lady
barely
speak. And he says, I am the smartest man alive. Which is also something I quote fairly regularly. And then we see Billy, he's getting nervous about third grade because that's when it gets hard. He's sitting in class. He's talking to this kid who's just like wide-eyed, mouth open, staring at him, like blank expression. And so then Billy turns to the kid on the other side of him, Ernie, and says, he repeats himself.
The same thing. He says, as if the kid didn't hear him say it to the other person.
And so then in walks Veronica Vaughn as his third grade teacher, and he proclaims under his breath, jackpot. She proceeds to introduce Billy as, class, this is Billy. Billy is a nuisance. He'll be gone in 2 weeks. Sorry for the inconvenience.
At least she kept that shit real.
She really did. They have to do a read aloud, and this kid is trying his best. He's not the strongest reader, but and it seems like he may have some sort of a stutter or something.
Oh,
he's also got a really awesome rat tail. Love that kid.
And so as he's stuttering out the words, Billy yells, today, Junior. And the quickness, Veronica Vaughn yokes him up by the ear and drags him out of that classroom. And we're like, that's how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Zero tolerance for bullying.
It's just like, you're a grown man. Why are you doing this to these kids? And the fact that these kids are like friends with him later, just, kids are so resilient. I would have planned his demise.
She said, making fun of a little kid trying to read, like, what the fuck?
Have you no soul?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he says, I can't hear you. I've been physically abused in the ear. And then as soon as she walks back into the classroom, he's still out in the hallway. And then he does his Veronica Vaughn, so hot, want to touch the hiney.
I just want this to be over. I'm trying so hard to get through this.
It was like a quarter of
I don't know if I'm going to make it.
The next day, they're practicing cursive. Billy's called up to the board. It's baseball day, I guess, for some reason. And so she's having him write baseball words in cursive. And at first he's like, this is easy. And then she says, risotto. And he can't remember how to form the Z's. So he kind of squiggles his way through it.
I have to give him credit for that. The Z was a hard thing to do for me in cursive. Yeah. That's a hard one.
And she kind of calls him out, like, looks like Naruto to me. And he protests that it's not a word, it's a baseball player. So that's not fair. And she says, okay, write the word buzz. He runs out of the room and says, I'm never coming back here. The next day, he's trying to fake sick. Juanita convinces him to go to school because if he stays home, he can help her shave her armpits.
Justice for Juanita.
The next day is very obviously a substitute. Not even a substitute. I guess I couldn't get subs. Not much has changed in 20 years. And so the principal has to teach the class for the day. We meet the second O'Doyle. And then...
Isn't it, you said it's the principal? Mm-hmm. It's the principal, right?
Right, yeah. The substitute.
Oh, okay. Yeah. He's the weirdo.
Yeah. He is weird.
Because doesn't he like full on, when he comes in the classroom, doesn't he full on try to hit on Billy?
We're getting to that, yes.
Oh, okay.
Then we get this like weird cut to his friends are still just chilling at his house.
Yeah, the moochers.
The moochers are still there, hanging out, living their best lives. So then we cut back to, it is now Valentine's Day. And he's receiving, like, all the girls in the class have crushes on him.
Now,
giving him all bedroom eyes.
Y'all didn't think this was inappropriate.
I didn't find it inappropriate because, like, as little girls, you have crushes on.
But it wasn't
even,
necessary.
Like a teacher or whatever. You know, like.
It wasn't necessary. I just don't think this is something that we should.
I think the way, if he had been like, oh, hey, like blowing kisses or something, it would be different. But he was just like politely waving to all the kids.
Yeah, that shit was creepy. And I think it totally could have been left out. And that one girl was like, they made it a running gag. And I was just like, man, we were real fucked up in the 90s.
We were.
Yeah. The Valentine that causes Billy to pause is one that says, I want you, Billy. P.S. I'm horny. Principal Anderson. Mm-hmm. And he looks up and Principal Anderson is making bedroom eyes at him.
And again, like, okay, so he obviously is a gay man. And this whole situation is just being kind of homophobic, that's how gay men would act, that there would be all up in your face and they're going to write you sick notes and like hound you. Even later in other scenes, he, like when he hugs Billy, he's like holding on to him and gyrating on him. Like, no sane person is doing this shit.
Yes. Well, obviously this man has some issues.
History.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Adam Sandler does have some issues. Because he wrote this movie.
Okay. I was specifically talking about the principal, but you were correct. He wrote the character of the principal. Billy is hanging out with Ernie.
I love Ernie.
I love Ernie too.
And he's got great hair.
He really does. And he has Sean hair from Boy Meets World.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's hanging out with Ernie. Billy has a crush on Veronica, so he makes Ernie call. Like, this was very childlike, where it's like, oh, call my crush, see if he likes me back.
That was so weird. That whole scenario was weird.
It was, the whole thing was weird. The weirdest part was that they had her home phone number to call her.
Yeah.
I'm like, how did this happen?
The weirdest part is that she didn't say, I'm so sorry. This is not appropriate for you to be talking to me like this. I'm going to see you at school. Click. Why are you telling him you're more mature than Billy? It was... make it make sense. Jesus.
And so obviously Billy does not get the answer he's looking for and gets upset with Ernie because he blew it.
Of course he does.
Now we are on a field trip to
Amish town.
Because
what the fuck is happening on this field trip?
I felt like it was like an old reenactment of like
the way it was
settlement or something like that. And there is a very elderly lady trying to give the tour that no one is listening to.
She actually says it. She says, I think it's the only notes that I wrote down. She says, what is a horseshoe? Are there horse socks? Like, she says all this weird shit. And then goes, is anyone even listening to me? I'm like, I am. What the fuck is this?
The poor old lady. She's just trying to do her job. She's probably weird. A volunteer. Then it cuts to Chris Farley, who plays the bus driver. I don't think we've mentioned that yet. And Billy's friends somehow knew to meet them at the field trip. They're eating all the kids' lunches.
Okay, so I would, if you in my Swiss rolls, me and Heather are jumping you after
we would be hanging trip. Like Eric from the beginning. Like, what the fuck are you doing to me?
You ate my motherfucking Swiss roll?
Catch me outside.
Who does shit like that? They needed their ass beat for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And the field trip's kind of wrapping up. And they're going to go get their lunches. They have not yet discovered there are no lunches to eat.
No, and they did just, I thought they discovered and they were trying to leave. But when they're trying to leave, then they realize that Ernie is just standing by the log cabin, just looking at the wall. And the teacher asks Billy, like, what the hell's going on with him?
Yeah, so Billy goes and checks on Ernie, and Ernie has had an accident. He has tinkled in his pants. It happens to the best of us. Billy finds Ernie. Ernie is embarrassed. He's had an accident. Billy's initial reaction.
So fucked up. That poor kid.
But Billy recognizes and Ernie's his friend. And so he comes up with a plan, splashes water on his crotch and walks in front of the kids first. And so all the kids are like, oh, Billy peed his pants. And Billy's like, yeah, it's the cool thing to do. Poor volunteer lady that no one's listening says, well, if peeing your pants is cool, consider me Miles Davis.
Honestly, she's one of my favorite characters.
She really is. So then Ernie feels comfortable enough to turn around.
Look at Ernie. He's
cool
too.
He's cool too. And then all the kids proceed to wet themselves as they get on the bus. The bus driver's like, I don't know what the fuck's going on.
I would have been so mad as the teacher. You know they smelled. Jesus.
I was just going to say that bus ride home was so stinky.
I wrote he passes third grade. Was there any catalyst for him passing third grade?
No, I don't think so. I think
She just said, congratulations,
maybe that
Billy.
whole situation of him doing that for
his social emotional growth.
Yeah. I just know that there was the party, and then all of a sudden, like, she has one good moment with him, or him doing that for the little kid, and now what, they're dating? Like, what's
She's
happening?
in love.
Veronica shows up with a parasol, and his friend is hosing down a kid.
That was Keith's. Keith is my husband, to the listeners, but yeah, it was his favorite part of the movie. At the end of the movie, he's like, I just want to say my favorite part of this movie it was randomly, his friend was randomly hosing down the kid at the party. The kid's going, who are you, mister? I don't even know you. Like, what a random scene.
Yes.
I don't know why he liked to torture these children.
Yeah. I don't know.
At the party, we see Carl and Eric. Eric is very angrily eating a hot dog and plotting as to who he can bring into his side to make sure Billy does not succeed.
Yeah, who he could dig some dirt on to really blackmail them. You said it a nice way.
And he eyes the principal, who's floundering in the, what did we call it? A fool?
The fool.
Floundering in the fool. That's the end of that scene. Is just Eric now has his eyes set on the principal. And we transition to Veronica having a conversation with Billy, telling him they're by themselves in that room tent thing. The tent. Yeah. It was there though before he had to study.
Yeah. Yeah, he wasn't studying in 3rd grade.
No.
So she's in there. She's talking to Billy.
She comments on how sweet it was for him to help Ernie. And they're starting to get close, kind of leaning in. And Carl interrupts.
Carl doesn't give a fuck.
He doesn't. He's like,
hey, just want to let you know that Eric seems real mad. And it
made his weasel noise.
Yeah. Seems like he's planning your demise. So just heads up.
Yep. Shortly after that is just a montage of passing grades.
Yeah. And we see Eric has this, like, I don't even know, like a board with little class desks that are for each grade. And he's taking like a popsicle stick with Billy's head on it and just moving them around.
Yeah.
So he speeds through because we got to get to high school.
Yeah. So now we're in 7th grade, but we're still in elementary school.
Right. Because, or is it 7th or 8th? Because doesn't he have that conversation? He's like, well, you're going to be leaving. And once you graduate 8th grade, you won't be here with us. You'll be going to high school.
And then we see him still hanging out with his 3rd grade friends. They're burping the alphabet. And then we see the lunch lady serving the sloppy joes. She made them extra sloppy for him. Which that character was created for the song.
It's like a throwback, like a callback to his Sloppy Joe song from his comedy show.
Correct. The Lunch Lady Land song.
We totally missed when they were on that bus back in 3rd grade where the kids dared him to touch her boobs. And I was just like, this is lovely.
And then when he actually does, he doesn't even touch her boob. He didn't even succeed at the dare.
And she knows that he was going to do it. And just like, I don't know.
And was that the same scene where the bus driver throws the banana peel?
Yeah, that was the big one.
Yeah.
That was another thing too. Chris Farley said, good, great, grand, wonderful. And that was a throwback to Airheads.
Yes.
Billy passes 7th grade. Eric is blackmailing the principal. The principal used to be a wrestler called the Revolting Blob, and he accidentally killed someone with a move gone wrong. And the guy
smothered him to death with his ass cheeks.
He was supposed to pinch his leg if he was running short of air. So
that doesn't even make any sense. Oh my God.
Now Billy is in high school. He shows up in his REO Speedwagon shirt,
he tries so hard,
and Firebird. And none of the kids are having it.
I just don't understand. Like, he obviously knows he's not old. He's young. He goes out. He sees what the kids are wearing. Like, why did he think
he does?
They go to the place to throw the pickles at the plate at the
I think that's the extent of his like socialization.
Jesus.
He's sitting in chemistry class.
And that scene, the chemistry class
Science
scene makes me so uncomfortable because it's just so over the top. And it reminded me so much of the kids who probably had ADHD at the time and weren't diagnosed yet, who would just do a lot of outlandish things to get attention in class. And I felt just like I felt when I was in class, when they would do stuff like that, uncomfortable.
Yes.
Yeah.
The scene where they're talking about chlorophyll and he yells out, "More like borophyll," and laughs to himself. The laugh was not in the script, but the director, Tamara Davis, liked it, so she left it in. Side note, Tamara Davis was not the original director. The original director was undisclosed. In the commentary, Davis stated that she started after 4 days of filming, and she brought in her own DP, but most of the original crew remained.
I was surprised it was directed by a female.
I was surprised too.
And then we see our third O'Doyle pours food on Billy at lunch. So he is relinquished to the nerd table, and they tell him that he is a loser. He says, "I'm not a loser." They said that's called loser denial. But then he becomes friends with them as well.
He has no choice. Nobody else wants to be friends with him.
He does at this point visit his third grade class. They're all super excited to see him and eager to hear how high school is. And he grabs a kid's face and smushes it and is like shaking it. And he's like, "Stay here. Stay where it's safe."
Yeah, the kid goes, "I can't wait till I get to high school." And then he grabs his face. He's like, "Stay here." And it's a chubby kid too, and the like fat on his face is like jiggling around. It's a scene.
I love his tail. He's got a
that's
the rat tail kid. He's the same stuttering kid.
Oh, it is. Okay, yeah.
He's the star of the show.
After he visits third grade, Veronica follows him out into the hallway. She can tell he's having a really rough time. And then she reminds him that it doesn't feel good to be called a loser, and think about how you treated other people in high school. And that's when that inspires Billy to start calling and apologizing and rectifying his wrongs. He calls Danny McGraw, played by Steve Buscemi, and apologizes. He was very sincere about his apology. Danny says, "Thank you very much. It's no problem. It's okay."
Unbothered.
And then as soon as he hangs up, he turns around to the wall behind him where he has his hit list and crosses Billy's name off of it.
I think the only difference that I would have with my hit list is that I wouldn't cross his name off for apologizing. I would just move his name to the bottom of the hit list. I'll get to him later.
The only other thing of note in this scene is that once Danny crossed Billy off his list, feels a little bit better, maybe a little anxiety is gone. He puts on a very lovely shade of red lipstick and just lays to listen to some music.
Honestly, that's my favorite part of the whole movie.
It's such a weird and wonderful scene.
It is.
Now we see Billy hanging out with his nerd friends. They're watching TV, and there is it interrupts the show that they're watching. Special
breaking
report,
news.
breaking news.
And his dad is there too.
Yes.
Watching. Yeah.
And it is the principal saying that he was paid $5,000 to pass Billy along in his
Why
grade
such a low
levels.
amount? That's when I saw that, I was just like, Billy
Well,
and his
let
dad
us
are
see.
super mega rich. I mean, I know there's inflation, but they're mega rich. They're richy rich.
Yeah. What I read was the number of hotels that Madison Hotels had was bigger than Hilton, Marriott, and Radisson. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, geez, that's a huge conglomerate.
Yes.
So you're
And-
right. It should have been 500,000.
Yeah, it should have been a lot more.
Let's see. That would have been $9,000.
Yeah, see, no. The ransom money, like Mel Gibson, come get this money piled up kind of situation.
Well, it was all a lie anyway.
I
just
know,
didn't lie
but
well.
I was a little
Make it more
annoyed.
believable.
Yeah. So after obviously they see this news report, Billy's dad is furious and very disappointed and doesn't believe Billy when he says that, you know, it's not true, which hurts him even more. And, you know, I thought at that moment it was going to be like a turning point where he says, you know what, I'm going to prove myself. I'm going to prove everybody that I didn't do this. But no, he reverts back to his old self and starts binging, acting
Goes
a fool.
on a bender.
Yep.
Mhm.
And it would have been a much better third act if he said, well, even if I don't get the company, I'm still going to finish.
Yeah, 100%. My first thought was in the scenes that followed it was, you know, the reasoning why they didn't have him have a really good arc was because he just needed a gratuitous scene to have his girlfriend be in a white shirt in the pool beating him up.
Yep.
Because he gives up on himself and she comes and she's really frustrated. And so she proceeds to beat the shit out of him. And he lets her because he's wasted.
And she said, are you just going to roll over and die? And he said, I was set up. And she said, some people drift through life like lumps of crap. And his friends like barely lift their head up. And like, what is she talking about? And pass back out.
Talking about you, which Norm Macdonald was like apparently drunk in all those scenes where he's wasted. So
he's a method actor.
Yes.
Fair enough. And then her inspiring message to Billy is, you say you're not a loser, Billy Madison, so win. And so she gets out of the pool and then
my favorite scene. This is my favorite. They all rise up to lift Billy up and bring him back around.
Yes,
we're here to help you,
he
Billy.
has this whole encouraging song that Danielle won't let us sing.
I don't
Come
care.
on.
I'm just trying to speed it up.
We won't sing it. It is fantastic.
It is so good.
It's so good. And then this is where the clown reassure us
Pops his head back up.
So
that he is
creepy.
not dead.
But he did have a hemorrhage in his head, according to the song. You were right, Danielle.
It's kind of like Billy's imagining all of his friends that he's made encouraging him to continue on. And so it's the kids that are singing. It's a whole
I'm hearing it in my head.
a whole choir encouraging Billy. The next scene is his friends, the kids, go to the principal's house to confront the principal because they know Billy did not pay the principal off. The principal answers the door in his revolting blob mask.
Oh, his doorbell apparently is the same, what is it, notes, keys of GE&C, which you get the NBC jingle because that was the affiliate of Universal Pictures.
The kids are like, what the fuck you doing, man? Why you lying? And the principal is so easily swayed. He's like, okay. And goes back on TV to say he made it up because he was being blackmailed. He was the revolting blob. And everyone kind of just accepts him for who he is.
Yeah, I was surprised. It seems like he still had his job.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. Eric is seeing this newscast and is irate, throws a remote that puts Joyce in a coma.
His assistant.
And
Jesus.
yes, they're having this meeting with Billy's dad because now the principal is saying, I made it all up. Eric was blackmailing me. Eric storms in. Eric does this weird thing where he's like gaslighting them, where he's like, oh no, I believed in Billy all along. Fuck you did, Eric. You put it out on Front Street. You didn't even try to hide it.
No, but he's got to now because he's getting held accountable. So he's got to pretend.
So Dad says we should give Billy another shot. Eric says, no, that wasn't the terms of the agreement. If he didn't pass the grade level in 2 weeks, he's out. It's been more than 2 weeks.
Which he's the bad guy. You know, we're not supposed to like him, but in real talk, like if you're vying for ownership over this multi-billion-dollar company, I'd be reciting the legal agreement as well. Like, nope.
Yeah,
I get this shit.
I agree. First of all, I would have never agreed to this scheme. Like, no way. All you have to do is go finish elementary school to high school. Get the fuck out of here. How about you take your bitch ass to college and see how you do there for a year? Like,
work in the mail room.
Yeah, work your way up or something.
Yeah, Eric throws a hissy fit and yells that it's a technicality and threatens legal action. And the dad's like, bring it. Like, pretty much, I can outlawyer you.
Yeah. And you have no merit. Like, this is, it's still my fucking company. You don't have any rights to my company. Get out of here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I don't think there was an official contract drawn up.
No. But doesn't Billy stop Eric before he goes and says, like, look, I have an idea. I'll challenge you to
Decathlon.
Thank you.
And then kisses Eric full on the lips to seal the deal.
Weird.
Now we're back in high school. Billy opens his locker. All of this manure falls out.
And his friends give him all the like study guides that he needs for where he missed class and whatnot.
Yes. The fourth O'Doyle was the one who put the manure in said locker. And Billy turns around and says, I have a feeling your whole family is going down.
Like he pretty much is like, I can't deal with this shit right now, but you're going to get your karma.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Then we see Veronica helping Billy study by doing strip study. So every question he gets right, another article comes off. I mean, do what you got to do to keep motivated.
And she's beautiful. Like her hair is beautiful. I'm like, I have a crush on Veronica too, because she's just beautiful.
I feel like another foil should have existed, which is Veronica's logical friend to say,
what are you doing with
what
this
are
jump?
you doing?
Yes.
Because this don't make no sense.
Yeah.
And then we see the dichotomy of Eric and Billy studying. So Eric is studying Spanish. He has his headphones on. He's waxing his statues. And Billy is learning French from a man that's just talking.
Yeah. That was weird. And he's the second person of color who has a speaking role in this movie.
So now it is the day of the decathlon. The first challenge is math. Eric wrote this equation on the board. Billy wrote, Eric drinks his own pee. And then we have home ec. Billy bakes something. Eric sets himself on fire. PE.
Like full look.
Yes.
Wait, he doesn't just like burn his food or his oven mitt. He is fully inflamed and Billy's just laughing. I was like, wait a minute.
Then we see PE. They have to race and Eric wins that one. Chemistry.
What?
I don't get this. I don't understand this scene. My whole life, I've never understood this scene.
As a science person, I don't know what the fuck. You had dry ice and you just pull your shoe out.
Well, even
the ice.
Eric, who wins? Yeah, I don't get either of them. I don't understand what we're making here.
Yes. I'm assuming that Adam Sandler just said, like how Jackie and I just say, sports. He just said, science.
Combustion.
Yeah.
A shoe.
And then it is orchestra. Eric plays a very lovely violin. Billy honks on clarinet. And then Billy just says, he's good.
Yeah.
Drama. Eric is doing fairly well. But Billy comes out full costume reciting Hamlet with the skull in his hand. We cut to a station wagon driving down the road with all the O'Doyles in it, just chanting O'Doyle rules. This scene never made sense.
Is it Super Mario Brothers all of a sudden?
Yes.
Like,
how is a car slipping on a banana peel? And like, I never made the correlation only because it was so ridiculous. And you see the dad just yanks his wheel. There's no like, the car swerves out of
He doesn't even yank the wheel. He just slowly careens that way.
I'm sorry, Jackie. Did logic enter the chat for you at this scene? Like end of the movie?
It never made sense to me, Danielle. That's all I'm saying.
None of this movie makes sense.
But Jackie, you started saying something connected. Are you talking about the banana peel that the bus driver threw out?
Yes. So the banana peel that the bus driver threw out is the banana peel that the station wagon slips on and careens off the cliff with all the O'Doyles in it.
And that's also dark that he killed all those children in this movie.
Mom said that she's like, there's little kids in that car.
So O'Doyle's be gone.
Yeah. His family did go down.
Yes.
The exact words that Billy said.
Yes. Now back to the decathlon.
Okay.
It is the final
countdown.
Danielle's so excited. It's almost the end.
So excited. We're almost out of this movie.
We are now in the final competition. Billy is ahead by 1. And they are allowed to pick a category for their opponent. Eric picks for Billy, reflections of society and literature.
Billy just scoots up there and you think he's going to say something profound and he just fucking says bullshit. And what I love, because I really thought that the principal was going to say, that's great. But he ends up...
I wrote down part of what he said because I still use this. In portions. Billy finishes his comparison of reflections of society and literature to The Puppy Who Lost Its Way. Crickets. And then he just shouts nib high football rules and everyone erupts in cheers, so he feels like he did a good job. Mm-hmm. And then the principal goes on this rant about whole movie. About that made no goddamn sense.
Yeah.
And quote, everyone in the room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points and may God have mercy on your soul.
So I see this scene on TikTok quite a bit. People will stitch it or merge it with something else. Like if a politician says something and I always forget where it came from. And it finally clicked. Not when I watched the movie, but when you just said it.
And Billy responds, okay, a simple wrong would have done just fine, but... And then it is time for Billy to choose for Eric, and he chooses business ethics because he knows Eric has no ethics. And so Eric, he tries for about 3 seconds and says, fuck this shit, and pulls a fucking revolver out at a school. Doesn't age well.
Yeah, that gave me some PTSD. I was like, what is this?
Well, it was never good to start off with. Why would you do this?
Yeah.
With children.
The whole auditorium clears. Everyone like takes cover. I'm like, this is too real. I don't like this at all.
Close to home. The revolting blob comes out, takes Eric down.
I love how he's like, Billy's just sitting there like not taking this seriously at all.
Yeah.
And Veronica seems to be more concerned about the principal from what's his name again? The principal?
The revolting blob or Principal Anderson.
Yeah, she's more concerned about him. Eric just says, brushes him off. I'm like, you killed someone with your butt cheeks. What's happening? You can't take him?
Eric gets up. Veronica is kind of standing like a deer in headlights. I like to say there's fight, flight, or freeze. Veronica is freeze. And Eric is just pointing his gun at her. Then Danny McGraw shows up and shoots Eric in the ass.
Steve Buscemi for the win.
And just gives Billy a thumbs
up. And Billy's like, thank God I apologize to him.
Yep. And now we see Billy's graduation. He says, Yahoo for school. Yahoo for me. And then announces that he is stepping down to give the company to Carl. Isn't Carl quite old to be like, isn't Carl the same age as Dad?
He's a little bit up there. I just think it's so anticlimactic. Like, we just followed you on this journey through this whole movie. You finally win, and you're like, meh. I'll take my allowance.
The most growth I've seen for him to finally put the lives of other people before himself and his selfish. I should just get this because my dad built it, and I know shit about what I'm doing.
Yeah. When you asked earlier about whether or not he legit had a mental issue or something, I thought about this scene. I'm like, he shows the ability to behave like a normal human at the end of the movie. Yeah. So
I guess that's growth, I suppose.
And then Billy announces that he's going to college. He's going to become a teacher.
I don't know if you could go to, I guess he did get a degree from being paid off by I wrote my notes. I'm like, he's going to college with a fake degree, but
he already got a high school. He passed high school. He just didn't get it right. He is teaching.
He has a piece of paper saying he graduated.
He essentially got his GED. The principal tells Billy he's still horny.
He's so creepy. He's such a creepy guy. Yeah. But that actor I read in real life is an opera singer.
Yes, he is. That poor man.
And Veronica whispers, if you think he's horny, they start kissing, and everyone starts kissing. We have Frank and the lunch lady, Miss Lippy and the clown, the nerds and the MILF.
Which that's a weird look. I don't like that. That was weird.
Another like red flag on the play.
Why wasn't it the other friend? Because it's Frank was Norm Macdonald or whatever. Why wasn't it the other no-name friend?
Well, because
he likes Snot Queen.
Because the other friend had to try and kiss the underage girl, and she refuses.
First of all, she refuses. The parent next to her should have decked him in the fucking face. Like, what's happening? So, again, if we go back to the little girls having the crush on him, we have seen at least 4 times in this movie where he has paired children inappropriately with adults. Can we now say maybe this is an issue?
It's a pattern. It's weird.
It's odd.
Yeah.
And then Juanita and Danny McGruff.
He goes to kiss her. He doesn't kiss her lips. You see him making out with the side of her cheek. I did see that part.
That's a little weird, cringy.
But he makes it seem like he's making out with her. So, Hollywood kiss, but respectful.
Yeah.
I can't be mad at it.
The last pair is the bus driver and the penguin in Y2K Jackie's brain. I never knew what the fuck the penguin was doing. I was like, why is Chris Farley pretending to float in this scene? Like, he moves so weird. The fucking penguin's jacking him off.
What? I'm gonna have to rewind that.
It took me this long to figure out. I think because it was acted so poorly.
Is that what it is?
I never figured. I always was like, why is he moving his body like he's floating? I don't understand. Penguins.
I'm gonna have to see that scene again to make it all make sense. But
I don't even recall what you're talking about, so I'm gonna pretend that
I've carried that weird chest movement that he's done with me in life, and now, but that's not even what people look like when they're getting jacked off. It's still weird. It's still weird.
So odd.
So there is Billy Madison.
So he co-wrote this movie, and he was 29, almost 30 years old. It just felt like maybe a teenager wrote this movie.
Agreed.
Yeah. I do think our minds in the 90s were like, Jackie does the comparisons of like dollar values in the 90s to dollar values now. Like, I feel like the maturity level is greater in these days.
But because it was made when he was 29 or 30 doesn't mean that's when he wrote it necessarily.
All I remember is that it definitely, with Adam Sandler, it was either you loved him or you hated him. There was no in between, for sure. And especially at that time, he was polarizing because a lot of people thought it was stupid. You know, a lot of comedy previous to that, even the older SNL guys like Martin Short and Dan Aykroyd, it was silliness, but his style of comedic prowess was just
goofy.
Yeah. And I remember at the time that people were just like, what the fuck is this? It's like they were dogging him because he would literally get on SNL and just pull out his guitar and just sing some random bullshit, and it would be like comedic gold, and everybody was confused. And I mean, I loved a lot of it, but it's just a certain brand, and people gravitate to it. It's his shtick. He has stuck with it. It works for him. I get it. I just, now that I'm older, it's hard because I have sense now. And I also don't have as much nostalgia tied to it. I think that's the problem. But
and it is very problematic. There is no doubt about that.
And if you love it and it brings you joy, then that's fine. But I'm just stating my opinions, which is that I find this shit weird.
Well, Danielle, we have Robert De Niro on our side.
That's not saying much.
He has reportedly claimed that Billy Madison is his all-time favorite film.
I'm surprised he said that out loud. But I want to know like when he said that, because it's been a long time. So if he said it when it first came out or a few years after that, there's a lot of movies. Maybe he's changed his mind.
Let's see what we have not covered.
Bradley Whitford's never seen the movie. I love it.
People will yell business ethics at him. And
while he's just like, walking down the street, then people just yell like that to him.
The scene where Chris Farley turns bright red and is super aggravated was improvised. I have a feeling a lot of this fucking movie was improvised.
The director said that she just thought it was important to let Adam be Adam. So there was quite a bit of the script, that they stayed true to the script, but they also ad-libbed a lot of parts to it, which is interesting because that whole O'Doyle rules thing wasn't written in the original script.
It just felt so out of place for something that's so quoted. It just felt so.
And I think I read that in other of his movies, they reference O'Doyle in light of like a bad character.
Yeah. Apparently the studio had some people come to do some rewrites and kind of clean it up. And what Adam would do is completely go back to the regular script when filming and just that was one of the only things that stayed from one of the rewrites, which is interesting. I don't know why I like that one.
Because the whole movie's irreverent. So the more weird shit he can put in there, the better. The picture of Billy that Eric is using to monitor Billy's progress from grade to grade is the same headshot photo that was used in Happy Gilmore for the signboard some people were carrying in the crowds. Charles Bronson turned down the role of Billy's father, and it was eventually given to Darren McGavin.
Best decision he ever made. I knew I liked him.
And then I'm going to end on kind of a downer. In the opening scene, Billy gives a warning about UV rays and applies sun lotion. Teresa Merritt, who plays Juanita, died from skin cancer a few weeks.
I just think it's important detail because I think a lot of African Americans, because we have melanin, we are less affected by the sun negatively in certain ways, but we still need to put sunscreen on to protect ourselves because we too can get skin cancer despite what we like to believe. So put that sunscreen on. What do you guys think? So let's get our ratings. What does President Jackie and Heather think?
it's hard. It's really hard for me to separate my nostalgia. It
I know.
draws me back to this movie over and over again. I'm gonna lower it. I'm gonna decrease from where I was as a kid. Oh, but I really did love watching it again. I don't know. I'm right on the cusp of would buy it again, and 5-day rental. I'm bouncing between the two.
Jackie?
I will go 5-day rental. I hadn't seen it in a while, but like as soon as you watch it,
I just feel
memories flooding
Yeah.
back in.
and I mean, like, you know, all
A
the
simpler
lines and
time.
everything, but it's not something on my rotation that I put on if I just need something to watch. You know, it's
Yeah.
not
But
one of
you-
my go-to movies. What about you, Danielle?
You know, I think I'm going to stay the same at 5-day rental. I think, you know,
Every
I'm
once in
surprised
a
by
while.
that.
I'm fucking joking. This
Oh,
shit
God.
is a
I'm-
same day rental. If I could go lower, I would. The only difference between how I felt about this movie, because I loved Adam Sandler growing up, and Half Baked, is the fact that they're high. There's logical reasoning behind their insanity. If he had been high, I would have been like, oh, well, this is a weed movie. I would have looked at it totally different. But these shenanigans, there's nothing less attractive to me than a man acting like a fucking idiot and a kid, and a rich man at that. Veronica was really putting in the time to say, you know what, I'm going to push through because this man is rich, but I don't know if I could do it. Like what? So yes, same day rental.
In the article that I read by the director, she said that one of the parts of this movie that does hold up or kind of saves it is the fact that they resisted over sexualizing Veronica Vaughn. Like she wasn't wearing super sexy, tight, like teacher pencil skirt outfits and stuff, which I do see. Like she's stupid for going for Billy, but she was appropriate in her reactions to a lot of the things that were wrong in the movie.
Yeah.
So
I'm mad she caved in the fact that the bar wasn't set higher for him. He should have done a lot more before she would have like.
It should have been like only at the end once he
gave the
came
company
to-
to Carl and
Right.
and wants to go back to school.
I don't know. I can't stand when we're doing these episodes. It's like my childhood is constantly being broken apart. I don't know how much more of this I can handle. I'm afraid
That's
to
the
watch.
whole premise of your show.
Well, I mean, hey, the movie didn't do bad. It got one 5-day rental, one in between. You know, with mine, it's like a good average. It's a good mix. But yeah, there's a ton of people that just absolutely love this movie because, you know, it's a nostalgic gem, and he did change a lot of comedy. Like if he didn't exist, maybe we wouldn't have gotten a Ryan Reynolds and Van Wilder or
or like Wedding Crashers.
Yes.
You know, like that slapstick kind of ridiculous.
Yes. The 90s and 2000s were littered with this shit. So
it just wasn't as finely polished as some of the later ones because they learned a lot from
what not to do.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, they knew exactly who their audience was. Heather, thank you so much for coming on. I know this was hard for me to watch, like the movie, but I'm glad that you and Jackie, like, this is your memorable nostalgic movie, especially like remembering your dad and all those moments. So I'm glad that you were able to come on and join us for this one.
I was too. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun reminiscing, watching the movie.
It's good.
It was nice to reminisce with you, Jack, and Danielle. I'm glad you tolerated and put up with our nonsense. I expected to be there a lot more singing, so we held back.
Sorry.
I just wanted us to get through it, and I felt like y'all were about to say every line of this movie.
We would have. If you didn't monitor us, we would have gotten out of control. So it's good. I love this. I love what you guys are doing. You guys are killing it, and I'm just so proud and happy. I'm grateful I get to kind of see you at the beginning and watch. Already the show has evolved, you know, from how you started, and you guys are becoming more polished, more in a routine, and I'm just proud of you. And I know you hope and know that you guys are proud of yourselves. You should be.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. We're trying our best.
You're doing a great job. And you're having fun doing it. Like, it's like, Marky, I think, asked in the interview, like, does it feel like work? And it seems like it doesn't. It seems like you guys, I know you guys put a lot of prep into it. You take it seriously, but at the end of the day, it's just kind of bullshitting and reminiscing with each other, and then friends and new friends that you've met. So it's really cool. It's a really awesome niche that you guys have found.
Thank you.
Yes, I feel like we've been building up to this forever. So it's just been great. And it's been fun, like being able to have family on. And yeah, we have been meeting a lot of new people. So it's just been, I personally just say, I'll go wherever it takes us and see how it goes. Yep. Yeah.
And I hope I can come back again later
on.
You are
always invited. Well, hit us up on social media and let us know what your rating would be for Billy Madison. Is it would buy it again, 5-day rental, or are you on the same page with me with the same day rental? Whatever. Let us know at TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at No More Late Fees. And if you have any messages, questions, if you want to tell us your ratings through the phone, leave us a message on our Google Voice number, which is
909-601-6653. It's 909-601-NMLF, and you could be featured on a future episode. And now let's hear some messages from our Quick Drop.
So I am commenting on the Jay and Silent Bob podcast. I love the podcast. I wanted to input so often throughout it, and then I found out I could call in, so that was probably your mistake. Anywho, I just wanted to kind of say that I felt like the movie kind of was mockery for a lot of other movies that were previously made. Like, the girls, I think, were making fun of Charlie's Angels, the original movie. There was a lot of homophobic stuff, like you had said, but I didn't realize it until you had brought it up, probably because in that time it was a little bit, well, not a little bit, a lot different with how people joke about things. Nowadays we have to be more careful, which is understandable, because a lot of things can be misconstrued or taken out of context and become very offensive. I also wanted to say that when I at first heard you say Missy, Sissy, and Chrissy, I almost thought I was getting a personal shout out. I was wrong. That's all right. I also wanted to say that, yep, I agree with you guys. Probably a 2-day rental, something I would watch if I saw it on TV, but not pay for to go see again. It was definitely fun in its time. I must have watched it a million times. But nowadays, comedy is a bit different, and our take on life is a lot different. So that always plays an aspect in what you want to watch. Anywho, I can't wait for the next episode. I love hearing everything. I love you guys. I love that your partner is a little forgetful, such as myself. All right. You have a good night. Bye-bye.
Hey, Jackie and Danielle, it's Stephanie. I just wanted to call and rave about the podcast. I'm enjoying every episode. I'm a little behind, but I'm catching up. But you guys have been cracking me up from just hearing you guys laugh about scenes in movies, or maybe like Jackie mispronouncing MC Light and saying Mick Light. Oh, Lord. I was like, Jackie, no! But no, I'm enjoying every episode, and I just had to mention that after watching Heavyweights, I watched it. A lot of the times I listen to the episodes and then I'm like, damn it, now I need to go back and watch it. And with Heavyweights, I was trying, when Jackie mentioned, oh my God, the doctor, she's so beautiful. I'm like, who is this doctor and who is this beautiful lady? So when it got to the scene with her, I'm like, oh my God, it is the shy nun from Sister Act, the one that Whoopi Goldberg brings out of her shell and like turns out she can sing. Like, oh my God. I was like, it's her, it's the nun. And I've always thought she was beautiful, even in those movies. But yeah, that's her. But yeah, enjoying every single episode. Right now I'm on I Know What You Did Last Summer. And it's funny because sometimes I get to episodes and I'm like, oh, I don't really care about this movie, but I want to support my girls. That's how I felt about like Camp Nowhere. And then in the end, I rewatched it and I'm like, man, this does hold up. This is pretty funny. And now in the middle of I Know What You Did Last Summer, I'm like, damn, now I want to rewatch this to see Jennifer Love Hewitt's eye acting and, you know, Ryan Phillippe roided out. So you guys are just cracking me up. And I love reliving these moments from like my childhood, my teenage years. So just keep doing what you're doing. And I'm forever a fan. Love y'all. And I'm working on that theme song. I haven't forgotten about it. It's a lot of pressure. I want to make it beautiful and perfect for y'all, but I'm working on it. Love y'all.
And as always,
be kind and rewind.